Oh my God. All right. So can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. So it's a little dark. I haven't been doing a lot of live streams, but people seem to like them. Let's see here. Boom. Okay. So I wanted to talk about what could possibly be the truth behind or of Eric Holder, Nipsey Hussle, and Big U. So let's start with. Oh, we got 229 already. Okay. So let's start with ask you a question. What year do you think Eric Holder is eligible to get out of prison? Anyone? 2034. He can get out in 9 more years. So we heard that he got 60 years in prison, which he did. So you would think, well, the way I think is when I think about would somebody tell or be an informant or not, it's largely based on how much time they're going to do. Right? So if a guy's not going to get out to 2060, I thought, well, if he if he really had some info on Big U, would he give that instead of sitting in prison for 35 more years or 30 more years? Um, he probably would. But I looked at his California Department of Corrections thing, and his first parole date is 2039. But California has a elderly offender thing because once you turn 50, you're much less likely to be a recidivist and you get more expensive, right? As you get older, you have health problems and fluff my hair here. So actually, when he turns 50, he'll go for an early parole, which is in 2035, which is 9 years from now. He's been in since 2019. So in another 18 months, he'll be halfway done. Think about that. He'll be halfway done, possibly, at least in his head. And what is life like for Eric Holder in prison? Well, when the case was in the news and he was in the LA County jail, he was having some problems. But listen, when you have a murder case, a lot of people have it rough in jail. Like you always killed somebody's family member. He's not the only one that was getting jumped on. There's people that are in PC. There's people who killed kids. There's people who killed someone who has a big family. There's people who beat up, raped, killed a cop's niece or something. Like a lot of people have a hard time in jail, not just him. And Eric Holder was, well, someone told me, I don't want to say what they told me, but basically he had done something violent in the neighborhood that was inappropriate. And they told him to get away from the neighborhood some years ago. And he had popped back up in 2019. He had been gone for several years. Now, how would have Eric Holder have been living? So if you're already a gang member, he's not a drug dealer. He took when Brick Baby was kind of recovering from being shot. He took care of Brick Baby. So Eric Holder was not like a getting money type of guy. A lot of the gang members are not. Like if you're really a drug dealer, a pimp, hustler, you're gonna kind of start to shy away from the gang because the gang is share and share alike. So Eric Holder probably was sleeping on, to quote Jay Z, futons and cots. He probably didn't have too comfortable of a life during the years he was exiled from the neighborhood. So for him to be in jail is probably not as uncomfortable. Listen, when you're sleeping in from couch to couch, sleeping at the dope house, finding random places to stay, um, jail is less uncomfortable than it would be to someone that was living in a normal way. If you're living in a house, sleeping with a woman, eating nice food, the thought of going to jail sounds pretty awful. But if you're sleeping on a pallet in a house with a bunch of different guys coming and going as trapping or whatever, it's not that much different than jail. In fact, jail's calmer. You may, in a way, prefer jail. So, could he? Could there be a scenario under which Eric Holder was willing to crash out, go sit in jail for a while, and then be back in good standing and figure, well, I'll get out in 2039 or 2035 anyways? Maybe. So that makes it to me a little more possible that there's something behind it. I will say, I don't know how to share. How can I share the screen? Can I share the screen? Pop out dashboard. Do, 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 do. How, is there a way I can share the screen? Share. No. Okay. Well, there's a bootleg Kev interview with Big U. He has all these interviews where he sounds just off talking about Nipsey. I mean, ultimately, if Nipsey was a guy he had once worked with and they kind of fell out, but they had been close, and then Nipsey got killed, he would say like, "Man, yeah, that's messed up. Can't believe that happened." But he never really says that. On the Bootleg Kev show, Bootleg Kev says, um, "How long was Nipsey signed to you?" And Big U says, "Well, he was started in 2009 and it ended in 10 years, 2019. Ha ha. Think about that one." And he smiles. He did that a lot of times. Now, I think he definitely did not, him and Nipsey did not like each other like at a serious level. That's for sure by the end. Obviously, Loose Cannon dislikes Big U. Wack 100 hates him. 600 hates him. And I don't know these guys, and I don't know if these are good guys or bad guys, but to have this many people dislike you enough, because Wack 100 and 600 and Loose Cannon and everyone knows that people are kind of, a certain amount of people are making fun of them or saying they're snitching on, snitching by talking about Big U, and they're willing to accept that because their dislike for him personally is so strong. So what does Big U do to people? Does he manipulate you into being part of his squad and then he doesn't break bread? That would definitely make people very upset. And how you fall out with the Golden Goose, and to tell the story the little Radze told that everybody seems to corroborate and believe, is that Nipsey made a diss song about him. Big U went to go check him about it. Big U hit him with an empty water bottle. This is in front of a lot of people. Nipsey said, "Let's go get down outside. Let's fight." Big U's, when you challenge someone with the most status to a fight, that's not smart because they can't afford to lose psychologically. So they describe it as they go outside. Now, Big U's claim to fame always was as an enforcer for drug dealers in the 80s. And then he robbed, there was a drug deal set up in 1991 for 33 pounds. And Big U just pulled a gun and robbed it. But it was a LA County sheriff. So that's what he got 23 years for back in 91. And California had 50% parole on your first time in prison. So he did about 12 years. He got out in 03. So they go outside. Nipsey has the reach on him. I guess Nipsey's about, they say Big U is 6'5". When he sits down, he doesn't look that tall. I'm really not sure how tall he is. Nipsey looked pretty tall. I think it sounds like Nipsey was bouncing around. Big U couldn't get to him. Big U started getting tired. So there really was no per se fight. But then either later that day or another day, a melee happened where a group, Big U and his guys or whoever's down with him, got Nipsey and some of them other ones and were getting the best of them. Nipsey's buddy Fats pulls up, who's short, but it really doesn't matter. You hop out of a car and run up on somebody and catch him, and he knocked Big U down. Judging by the way Big U talks on some of these wiretaps, because we now have more than just gossip about Big U. There is wiretaps of him saying things like, "I'm the last of the OGs that's still out here killing people." Now, saying that type of stuff to people is pretty damn serious. It's one thing, I don't know, that's some crazy shit to say on the phone, right? I mean, that's pretty crazy to say on the phone. So, um, it would seem that Big U certainly got himself in trouble more so than Loose Cannon. And I don't know why people are talking about Brick Baby got him. And Brick Baby has nothing to do with Big U and being in trouble. Brick Baby's probably sweating bullets whether he's going to get stuck in something with Big U. And there's something in the Big U write up that implies that he kind of taxed Brick Baby when Brick Baby hit a lick on somebody. So now, as far as who are these guys, well, let's briefly talk about the nonsense going on with Sharice Mills and Loose Cannon. These are the most, well, these are interesting people. I mean, they are not. I'll give it to Loose Cannon. He's got a strong spirit because he's down in the federal detention center and he's still playing his role. I mean, he's still doing a reality show. They're calling in. So the latest, if you're not up on the daily YouTube gossip, thank you for the $4.99. A lot of people saying Nipsey Hussle was about to go and meet with the police about his charity and his program, and Wack is the police. Well, listen, when you call yourself a community activist, when you work with the community, the police are part of the community. Now, when I was in graduate school, I had a job, worked at the Center for Urban Studies. We would, well, one of the grants I was under, we would actually process certain police, not like crime data, but we would just map out which parts of the city had more crime. And we would have to analyze the different charities do their job, things like the GRID program. And anytime the government gives money to anybody, you have to have what's called stakeholders. So you have community residents, you have maybe local business owners, you have the city councilman, neighborhood watch, and you're going to have maybe in a neighborhood where there's crime and gangs, you might have returning citizens, parolees, and you're definitely going to have police. So sitting in a room with, the community watch, the neighborhood activists, the business owners, and some police, I mean, it's not really meeting with the police. The idea that you can't speak to a police officer or you're snitching is some real childish, I don't know who, made that rule up. That sounds like a rule. A lot of these so-called street rules were made up by real gangsters to protect and insulate themselves from the cannon fodder. Do you guys know what the phrase cannon fodder is? It comes from medieval Europe. When cannons were first invented, which shoots out a big ball of metal or whatever, sometimes they would shoot dead animals to spread disease. The cannonballs were a single cannonball was more valuable than a villager, than a human being, than a peasant. So they would just go get thousands of the field peasants in France or Germany and walk them in front of the real troops and let them catch the cannon fire so that the other side would run out of cannonballs. And that's what a lot of low-level drug dealers, low-level gang members, people in the street, people that are not the masterminds of something, they're indoctrinated, never talk to the police. But just like they say, you're not a real rolling 60 till you kill one, you're not a real gangster if you're not working with the police or with the government official. And I don't mean by snitching, though it could be that. A gangster is his own shadow government. So of course he's going to interact with the real government. So whether you have a corrupt politician, whether you're paying off cops, of course, you guys know from my work with my documentaries and know the intimate details of many drug operations, you're not going to have a big drug operation without giving some police some money sometimes. So to answer your question, Nipsey working with the police, if he said he's for the community, you have to work with the police. Now that doesn't mean you give information on crimes. I don't understand what you guys that are not street like people that have crack houses may call the police on a guy that's breaking in all the houses on the block. I mean, you have to stop him, and you certainly shouldn't commit first degree murder when you can just make a phone call. So, I mean, like, are you not supposed to call the police and tell them someone stole your car? So these are the rules of people that have no car, that have these are like a lot of these West Coast street rules. You can't talk to police at all. It sounds like homeless people rules. Because if you have a car or an apartment and it gets burglarized, your car gets broken into, I mean, you got to get a police report number to make an insurance claim. You may not care to capture the crackhead who broke in your car, but like you have to get a number to make an insurance claim. So these are the rules of people that have no car, no, and have no house and have nothing, which a lot seem not to. I mean, even this big U extortion thing, relatively paltry amounts of money when you figure they're breaking it up amongst many people. I mean, hey, Loose Cannon and Brick Baby are selling T-shirts. Go buy one. If you, I may, I might buy a Brick Baby T-shirt. I don't mind them too. They were entertaining, but these amounts of money, Big U is not a member of the music industry, other than whatever he was, getting out of people that put themselves in harm's way. And why would a rapper let himself get robbed in LA when you can just hire an off-duty cop? Well, it's because you're presenting an image of, hey, I'm street, so I hang with the street guys. Well, okay, well, then you better know how to do that. How you think someone's your friend, but they get you somewhere and then strip you, I don't know. Now, back to Eric Holder. Knowing that his punishment could be ending as soon as 2035, knowing that he was living probably not much better than jail, makes it more plausible. And he was, according to Brick Baby, who was his big homie, like that was Little Shitty is under Shitty Cuz, which is Brick, Crystal and Sharm, and he had a car accident. I think what messed that Eric Holder up, he had some closed head injury. Closed head injuries are very serious. Like, often the reason people don't get the death penalty in heinous cases, a high percentage of people that go for death penalty across any state are either very low IQ, horrific abuse in childhood, or a lot of them have had closed head injuries. Closed head injury messes you up. So Eric Holder, closed head injury, a crystal and PCP user. That sounds like quite a combination. So to have a guy on those two drugs with two guns, so that's why it's so hard to figure out his behaviors that day. Like now the most interesting thing, I put this in one of my stories the other day. I didn't realize that woman that drove Eric Holder, the Uber driver that was like that he was dating or whatever, who sat in a hamburger stand and then asked Nipsey for his autograph. I put a clip in the video from the other day. She said Eric Holder asked Nipsey, "Have you ever snitched?" He was asking Nipsey that. See, remember Cowboy and the other? Well, he's the only one talking that claims they've heard the conversation. He said no. Nipsey didn't ask him if he snitched. Like, he was very vague about it. Because like they don't want it to be that to come out that there was some question that Nipsey said, and I'm not saying Nipsey said, I have no idea and I don't really care. I will say, and this is not from any personal experience, but just watching the LA gang members just watching YouTube, they seem to be very attuned to watching each other in their own gang so that they can attack each other. Oh, DP, get him out the game. You violated the rules. Big U wanted to keep the grid contracts. Yeah, he did. What would that have to do with Nipsey? I mean, I don't think Nipsey was trying to get the grid contracts. Big U's biggest problem, well, is to murder the kid in Las Vegas, if he did it. But they don't have enough evidence yet because he's not actually charged with that. It's just mentioned in the RICO. His biggest problem is the financial fraud. That carries 30 years. The RICO only carries 20. When the government gives you special dispensation, right? You're a nonprofit. You don't have to pay taxes. You are now held to a high. When they catch you playing around, so Big U, we're going to give an infamous guy. Big U was on the front page of the LA Times in 1992 when he robbed that LA County sheriff. He had a big name. He worked with the Nation of Islam. He's a well-known guy for being a street person. So for the city to work with him, and then for this all to come out is a very big embarrassment. So it's going to be hard for him to avoid the paper trail. And there is an IR. I don't know if you noticed in the paperwork, there's an IRS CI. So there's an Internal Revenue Service confidential informant or is it a cooperating witness? Either way, I bet you that there's some sort of someone that was a accountant for developing options, or is handing over info, or got the press play put on him and is giving up the info, and that is going to be Big U's downfall for sure. That's going to be hard to get out of. Adam 22, you got to watch a lot of this stuff and listen. It goes by so fast. Adam 22 said he's been getting sent videos of Big U and Eric Holder together. Big U acts like you don't know that guy. If videos come out of Big U and Eric Holder together, what do you think? Autobiography of an LA gang member should have never been put out by Sandhika Shakur. That was ghostwritten by probably some other people, and it popularized being a Crip on the West Coast, on the East Coast. It should have never came out. It was a bad. Master Cody was born into an upper middle class football player father, mother with a master's degree. So he had a behavioral disorder. And I don't know what carjacking black people to get money to smoke crack with has to do with being a revolutionary, but that's another story. But rest in peace to him. He had a tumultuous, difficult life. He probably did the best he could. He seemed like he had some behavioral disorder, and he was born at a time when the gangs were taking off. So I don't know. So if there are videos of Eric Holder and Big U together, is that a smoking gun? Now, there's no such thing in the law as a tacit conspiracy. So if nobody ever said to Eric Holder, "Go kill Nipsey and you'll be in good with back, you'll be back good with the hood," if no one said that, but it's implied, like, oh, you're just supposed to know that, then he can't tell because there was no conversation to actually tell him. I'm sure that they're up there, or they've sent people up there to talk to Eric Holder. He may have nothing. He may be full of psych meds. I don't know, because I mean, why wouldn't you? He's on the SNY. Like, it's not like he can bop around. He might as well get some Seroquel and just watch TV and wait till 2035 so he can go home. And certainly this alleged homicide of Rayshawn Williams in Las Vegas is eerily similar to Nipsey Hustle, a young rapper that he was very close to that disrespected him by not wanting to do every little thing the way he said he's going to kill you for it. How is it that all of Wack 100's enemies got locked up and the Big Pyru remains free? Let's talk about it. Well, I agree. Some play checkers. Wack 100 plays chess. he certainly walked all those guys. Like he found loose cannon and promoted him up. But listen, it's very important. Loose cannon did not get Big U indicted. That stuff is mentioned in the indictment, but the main social media and TV stuff is Big U's own stuff because it's not hearsay. It's him on Hip Hop Uncovered saying, when you come to LA, I'm one of the people you check in with. You might get hurt. It's that other clip I put in one of my videos of him on a movie set saying, yeah, you shoot a movie in the hood, you better check in with us or your equipment's going to get checked in. This is him. It's him saying, oh, like when the U.S. government, when you fly through their airspace, you got to let them know. You got to let me know when I'm in L.A. This is him. This is him having a podcast on World Star Hip Hop called Check In with Snoop Dogg in the chorus saying, when you come to LA, you better check in, step off the jet, check in, penthouse room, check in, you better check in. And then he has Quando Rondo on. He has all these people on. Half of them seem, like they're sort of being semi-pressed. It's kind of weird when you go back and watch it. When you're watching it when it was happening, it just seemed like they're kind of playing the role for entertainment's sake. But seeing how Big U talked on those cell phones and well, what he thought was off the record, but it was on the record once his phone got tapped. I mean, was what? Okay, do you think? So is Wack 100 a police officer? I'm not prepared to say that. Is he smart? Did he get rid of Big U? Now, what does that benefit him other than like maybe he felt he was in danger? Listen, all these guys and everyone that goes to prison and is supposed to be this and that reads Machiavelli and the 48 Laws of Power and all these lessons of leaders from history. If your options are okay, I'm afraid this guy's going to do something to me. I kill him and risk a first degree murder conviction, or I help him maneuver himself into a jail cell. But again, take away Wack 100 and loose cannon, I think Big U gets indicted anyways. This whole thing, the case started on him because of the murder of the young man in Las Vegas and that mother being on Big U. You rented him that Airbnb. You had him out there. Where is he at? And Big U first said, oh, it wasn't me that brought him out there. And then he admitted he was. That sounds pretty damn bad. Big U's GPS is turned off during the couple hours where Rayshawn went missing before he was found deceased, dumped on the side of the road. That looks very bad. Very bad circumstantial evidence. The case against him was opened because of that. And then they got wiretaps and they looked at Big U at Hip Hop Uncovered and the Check In podcast and things he said on Paul P, things he said on Big Kev, whatever the guy's name is, Bootleg Kev. Forget Wack 100 and loose cannon. They did not get him indicted. In fact, wouldn't it be an amazing? Wouldn't loose cannon be the smartest person ever if he definitely was with Big U to some degree, and he maybe pressed a few people, and so he knew what Big U was doing. But he's making up some of these other things, or he's telling these things knowing that the rappers like Gilly or Meek Mill, not saying those events really happened, but if they did, those guys aren't going to go on a stand and say they did. So it really doesn't matter, all these supposed rapper robberies. The NBA players and the crooked dice, go watch my story. That's one of the most interesting things in there. Adrian Bronner was running the washed up boxer was running a crooked dice game in a hotel room. He hit multiple NBA players for $6 million with crooked dice. They call Big U. He comes and gets the money back, charges $100,000. Adrian Bronner supposedly still sent people to go press the NBA players after the fact and say, oh no, you still owe money. So so now, and as far as Wack 100, so Now, it will be interesting. I think that Adam 22 and even more so, obviously, Wack 100. Wack 100 seems to be guilty verbally of a lot of the same things you was indicted for, except he might not be on a wiretap talking crazy. Because Big Wack 100 talks about going to press 50 Cent, but the 50 Cent had Navy SEALs with him. He talks about chasing Future and Sierra through the mall to get money. Now, if Loose and Wack are making these stories up to get attention for themselves and they didn't happen, then there'll be no charges. I mean, this is the same thing as Keefy D. Did Keefy D, like, this is, on the one hand, is very crazy that there's all these people telling these crimes, but not really, because this caliber of criminal, prison is full of people that told on themselves. Prisons have been full of people that get locked up for real serious crime and they're sitting in a cell and there's a guy next to them and they tell them, oh man, they'll never catch me. I threw the murder weapon down the sewer. And the guy tells the police and he testifies, white criminals, black criminals in the 1950s and the 1920s and yesterday. This is standard. So we're living our lives on the internet and on our phones and social media. So we're doing everything else on these things. So it's really not that shocking that it's playing out on here, I would say. Will Wack 100 get an indictment? Well, the loose cannon Wack 100 attack outside of the no jumper thing, kind of weird. I mean, there could be a superseding indictment. I do want to delve into, not here, but that whole thing of Wack 100 being CS2 from the Greg Kading book. But you got to take everything you read from Greg Kading with a major grain of salt. For those of you into the old Tupac and Biggie murder thing, you know, Greg Kading, he was running the investigations for part of the time of those. But Greg Kading has made a lot of money selling books and getting paid for interviews. He gets paid. He tried to charge me a lot. He likes to get paid, which is not journalism. Journalists are not supposed to pay because if you pay somebody, then they have an incentive to make things up. So I generally don't pay people. Greg Kading had a big case against a guy named George Torres. He was the lead investigator. George Torres was a massive alleged kingpin here in LA, owned a bunch of supermarkets, convicted him. He was going to get guys getting life in prison, a huge trafficker, murders. And the judge pulled it right back and said, we got to throw this out because Kading was going to witnesses, well, to inmates, and just basically saying, get on the stand and say this about George Torres and giving them a script and total inappropriate stuff. It's amazing Kading even got to stay on the force, really. Free Brick Baby. Chicago full of light. Why are you guys beefing between Chicago and LA? Come on now. We'll say by the time the Crips and Bloods even arose, the Chicago gangs had already gone through such a super cycle that Jeff Fort, the head of the first super gang, the Blackstone Rangers, he was, when the Crips really got going in 72, Jeff Fort was already in federal prison. He was running that gang in the late 50s, and they got so powerful by the late 60s, they were given, just like Big U, millions of dollars in grant money. And, you know, they said they stole it. I think they were I don't really think so. I think they afforded too much power. So by the time the Crips came into existence, Blackstone Rangers had already 15 years of power that got them in front of Congress. Jeff Fort sent his underling to go testify in front of Congress for him. So that's an aside. There's a great book called The King David and the Boss about David Barksdale and Boss Daley, the white mayor of Chicago, Richard Daley, written by a black academic scholar in Chicago. You should check it out. So is Wack 100 police officer? No. Is Wack 100 adroitly maneuvering these internet streets? Yeah, like he really has no artists like this really popping. He's not really anybody in the music industry, but he manages to make himself some money. The question is, how tied in was he with Big U? Was he part of extortion stuff? We shall see. Wack 100 definitely seems like a different type of person than Big U. A lot of people have good things to say about Wack 100 being helpful and as such, who knows? You know, probably a mixed bag like a lot of people. But go and read the way that Big U talks on some of the wiretaps. I'm the only one out here still killing people. Um, Now, so what do we think about Nipsey, Big U? What do we think about all of that? Was Eric Holder sent? Was he a Manchurian candidate? Did he have a did he have a a subliminal message implanted in his head like a wind up doll, but it was never explicitly said, so he can't really tell the information? Wack 100 is snitch, aka CS2, back in the Main Street case. Yes, it does seem like that from reading the book, but that's why I said you got to take Greg Kading with a grain of salt. Greg Kading wrote that book. I don't necessarily believe the way Greg Kading describes things. Not saying he's lying. I just take Greg Kading with a grain of salt. It could be someone trying to make Wack 100 look like. And listen, a confidential source, that could just be a guy trying to get rid of his street enemies. See, you got to delineate people that break in houses and stand on the street corner with rocks and a pistol are not the same type of criminals as people that make real money. People that make real money that are high level, they're going to use the police as a resource. They may not get on the stand. They may not put someone in jail. They may, people become confidential sources to give the police false information. Me and my guys are selling a whole lot of whatever. I walk into the police station. Hey, I want to start giving information, and I feed them bad information, right? We put small amounts of, they know that this organization exists, but we got 100 kilos over here. We put 3 kilos in the house over there with a guy that we're sick of anyways, and we let them raid that. And now the police think they broke us, but really we're rocking and everything. I'm a double agent. That goes on too. All sorts of things go on when you start, Wack 100 is definitely very smart. Like, he's got the internet really based on not much. Like, what, Blueface? I mean, a guy that had a local hit, which is fine and more of a hit to me. I'm not hating on it, but I'm saying he doesn't have like any big artists. I mean, really. He really only came on the scene for knocking out Stitches, because managing Game, I mean, Game hasn't had a hit since 50 Cent wrote him one. Do everything by yourself, trust no one. That's right. What about the weed dispensary guy? Okay, right. So Big U, how bad is the case against Big U? Okay, the murder, obviously, if they can actually pin that on him, obviously, that's a wrap. And if they unraveled he was involved with Nipsey, obviously that's a wrap. But those are hypotheticals as of now. The murder is just mentioned. He's not really charged with it. The guy Monster Morrison, he has a pending case. He's a guy that already had a pimping case. And if Big U has a good lawyer, he could very easily put that guy in the stand and make him seem like, oh, well, you guys were just selling weed together and you weren't breaking off what you owed, like, just as a business partner. That wasn't extortion. I could very easily see in that guy not being a very good witness. And if none of these so-called other rapper extortion victims are gonna say that these crimes occurred, you're not left with much other than the financial crimes, which again carry more time than the RICO. They carry 30 years. Bank fraud carries 30 years. For all of you scammers out there that think bank fraud carries 30 years, the RICO only carries 20. So I think that's going to be his biggest problem. Al Prophet does make some of the best crime documentaries. Thank you, Kelvin. Big U can do 30 with his eyes closed. That's a lot with his eyes closed. Shake my head. That's a lot of time. Al Prophet looking clean and sober. Well, that's just a new filter I got. YouTube has a new clean and sober filter. I shaved. I'm not a closeted homosexual like half of the men are these days. So because 92% of my viewers are men, I don't always bother to get dolled up for men to tell me I'm handsome. But since this is one of my first lives, I did iron my shirt and shave and comb my hair. But not because I'm trying to look handsome for you. I just wanted to look kind of up and up. But yes, I am using the new clean and sober filter. Al always looks comfortable. I am comfortable, thank you. The diddler dookie doors. Okay, Alfred, you ain't cracking none but smiles, Goofy. Alfred, I'm part of it. Boy, man, you guys really get off into the gangbanging on here. Well, I'm not seeing any heavy super chats, but this was fun. Some food for thought. Saudi Arabia Wahhabism, my man. Do some of these stories haunt you or make you overthink? No, nope. I've had enough tragedies in my own life and enough life experiences. Human beings are born to die, and I don't mean that in a morbid way, but that's when you understand that you've truly become an adult. You're no longer a child, and it's okay. My grandmother was extremely close to. She died at 92, and I understood at the end. Her husband was dead, one of her children. My mother was dead, grandchildren dead. Her siblings, her friends. It's time to end. We're born to die. It is very sad. Some of these cases with children and all type of people getting killed. That's who I feel. Children. But hey, man. I mean, as recently as World War One era, when the world was really first heavily industrializing, places, parts of New York, parts of Berlin, a quarter of the children didn't make it to two. So babies die right now in Ukraine and Russia. They're killing women, children. In Gaza, they just slaughtered all those women and babies, whatever the real number is. War is killing babies as part of war. So if you can accept that, if you can accept abortion, you can accept anything. And I'm not saying abortion should be illegal or illegal, but if we all can live with abortion, then you can live with any of these other crimes. With that, thank you. We got over 2,000 people, 45 minutes. I like running my mouth on live. We'll do some more of these. I'll think of another good cat topic. Al Prophet, American Dope. I'm out. Thank you for joining the kid. I'm the kid. Now, how the hell do I stop this? Hopefully the male prostitutes don't show up before I can turn this off and blow my reputation. Oh, there's the end stream. Okay. All right, fellas, you can come in. I'm ending the stream.